From bustling cities to remote islands, the world is interconnected in a complex web of relationships. But did you know that the world's richest countries lend billions, even trillions of dollars to other nations? This flow of money shapes the destinies of countries and their people. Join us as we uncover the top 5 biggest lending countries and delve deep into the intricate world of global finance. Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking truth. Our journey begins in the East, in the heart of the world's most populous nation, China. In recent decades, China has emerged as a global economic titan, and with its newfound prosperity has come a thirst to lend. From the plains of Africa to the islands of the Pacific, China's presence is being felt through its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. The BRI, a sprawling network of infrastructure projects spanning continents, is perhaps the most ambitious development undertaking in human history. Ports, railways, highways, and power plants are being constructed at a breakneck pace, all funded by Chinese loans. Sri Lanka, a small island nation off the coast of India, offers a cautionary tale. Lured by the promise of prosperity, Sri Lanka borrowed heavily from China to fund ambitious infrastructure projects. However, the projects, often plagued by mismanagement and overspending, failed to generate the anticipated economic returns. Unable to repay its loans, it was forced to lease a strategically important port to China for 99 years. This incident has raised alarm bells worldwide, with critics accusing China of engaging in debt-trap diplomacy. China denies these accusations, arguing that its lending practices are purely economic and mutually beneficial. China's lending practices are undoubtedly driven by a mix of economic and geopolitical motivations. As we move forward, the world will be watching closely to see how China wields its newfound lending power. Our journey now takes us across the Pacific to the United States, a nation synonymous with economic and military might. The U.S. has long been a major player in global lending, dispensing billions of dollars through a variety of channels. Unlike China, which primarily lends directly to governments, the U.S. often works through multilateral institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank. These institutions, created in the aftermath of World War II, provide loans and financial assistance to developing countries. However, the U.S. also engages in direct lending through its government agencies, such as the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. These loans, often tied to specific development projects or policy reforms, reflect the U.S. strategic interests. For decades, the U.S. has used its lending power to advance its foreign policy objectives. During the Cold War, it poured billions into countries deemed vulnerable to communist influence. Today, its lending priorities have shifted to combating terrorism, promoting democracy, and countering the influence of rivals like China. One of the most striking examples of the U.S. strategic lending is its relationship with Egypt. For decades, Egypt has been the second largest recipient of U.S. foreign aid, receiving billions of dollars in military and economic assistance. This financial support has helped to prop up the Egyptian government, a key U.S. ally in a volatile region. However, the U.S. lending practices have not been without controversy. Critics argue that its loans often come with strings attached, requiring recipient countries to adopt policies favorable to U.S. interests. They point to the IMF's structural adjustment programs, which have been accused of exacerbating poverty and inequality in developing countries. The U.S. counters that its lending practices are designed to promote economic growth and stability, which ultimately benefit both the recipient country and the U.S. It argues that its support for democratic reforms and free markets has helped to lift millions out of poverty. As the global landscape continues to shift, the U.S. role as a lender is evolving. With the rise of China and other emerging economies, the U.S. is facing increased competition for influence. It remains to be seen how the U.S. will adapt its lending practices to navigate this new reality. Our next destination takes us to the land of the rising sun, Japan, a nation renowned for its technological prowess and economic efficiency. While often overshadowed by China and the United States, Japan has quietly become a major player in global lending, particularly in Asia. Japan's approach to lending is characterized by its focus on long-term partnerships and its preference for concessional loans, which offer highly favorable terms to borrowers. Unlike China's Belt and Road Initiative, which prioritizes large-scale infrastructure projects, Japan's lending portfolio is more diverse. encompassing everything from education and healthcare to environmental protection and disaster risk reduction. One of Japan's key lending partners is India, a rising economic powerhouse in its own right. Japan has played a pivotal role in financing some of India's most ambitious infrastructure projects, including the Delhi Metro. Japan's commitment to development assistance is rooted in its own experience as a recipient of foreign aid in the aftermath of World War II. But Japan's lending practices are not solely driven by altruism. By investing in the economic growth and stability of its neighbors, Japan aims to create a more prosperous and secure Asia-Pacific region, which ultimately benefits its own interests. Japan's quiet diplomacy and commitment to sustainable development are making a tangible difference in the lives of millions of people across Asia and beyond. Our exploration of global lending now takes us to the heart of Europe, to Germany, an economic powerhouse and a staunch advocate for European integration. Germany's lending practices are deeply intertwined with its role as a leading member of the European Union. Germany has been a major contributor to the European Stability Mechanism, a financial firewall designed to provide emergency loans to struggling Eurozone countries. During the European sovereign debt crisis, Germany played a pivotal role in bailing out countries like Greece, Ireland, and Portugal, preventing the collapse of the single currency. However, Germany's insistence on fiscal discipline and structural reforms as conditions for receiving financial assistance has sparked controversy. Critics argue that these austerity measures have exacerbated social unrest and hindered economic growth in recipient countries. Beyond the Eurozone, Germany is also a major provider of development assistance to countries around the world. German development policy emphasizes poverty reduction, sustainable development, and good governance. Germany's development cooperation with Africa is driven by a combination of humanitarian concerns, economic interests, and a desire to address the root causes of migration. Germany's lending practices are characterized by their emphasis on transparency, accountability, and long-term sustainability. Our final destination takes us to France, a nation with a long and complex history as both a lender and a colonial power. France's lending practices are intricately linked to its historical ties with its former colonies, particularly in Africa. France continues to be a major lender to African countries, providing billions of dollars in development assistance and budget support. This financial assistance is channeled through a variety of institutions, including the French Development Agency. However, France's lending relationship with Africa has not been without its critics. Some argue that France's continued economic influence in its former colonies is a form of neo-colonialism, perpetuating a cycle of dependency. France counters that its financial assistance to Africa is essential for promoting economic development and stability in a region facing numerous challenges, including poverty, conflict, and climate change. Beyond Africa, France is also a leading advocate for global action on climate change. France has pledged to increase its financing for climate-related projects in developing countries, recognizing the disproportionate impact of climate change on the world's poorest and most vulnerable populations. France's lending practices reflect its unique position as a former colonial power with enduring ties to its former colonies, a global leader in development finance, and a champion for climate action. As we've journeyed across the globe, one thing has become abundantly clear: global lending isn't just about money, it's about control, influence, and power. Each loan, a strategic chess move, shaping the geopolitical landscape. The decisions made in boardrooms thousands of miles away impact the daily lives of people around the world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more eye-opening content. Until next time, stay curious.